The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk in partnership with thechairshot.com, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network and in association with NDPW.com. Turnbuckle Talk is sponsored by collarandelbowbrand.com, where you get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast. Turnbuckle Talk is also partnered with Phoenix at FNXFit.com, where you get 15% off all your health supplements simply by using promo code TBTalkPod. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. Listen on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you catch your favorite programs. And now, pro wrestling fanatics, are you ready? Here are your hosts, Mighty Joe Morin and Karl Karufel.
That's right, everybody. I am Karl Karufel, alongside, as always, my broadcast colleague, Mighty Joe Morin, and today we are joined by our friend and promoter of Ignite Wrestling. We are joined by Kim Artlip.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Not too bad. In preparation for episode 205 of Turnbuckle Talk here, I had originally kind of planned, talk some usual wrestling discussion or some breaking news. There's some things going on, some shows, and I thought, you know what? It has been quite a while since we have talked to our friend Kim Artlip from down in Florida with Ignite Wrestling. I was like, it is time to get her back on the show. So welcome back to Turnbuckle Talk, Kim. How have you been?
I'm still recovering from our show on January 23rd. Like I was saying before we went on air, it takes me a couple weeks to get over a show, man. These guys wear me out. It's a long day.
I'm sure it definitely is. Even just from the little bit of things that we have done with Danny over in the CWE when he's come through and done his tours, we definitely know and definitely understand how frustrating at times and how draining it can actually be. For myself, I used to help run promotion here as well, so I mean, I get it. I totally do. I wasn't actually as in-depth as Miss Kim is, but I do understand.
Yeah, Kim's an idiot.
So while you were under lockdown, because I mean, Florida got locked down pretty heavy. It was kind of a hot zone there. When you weren't running shows, I mean, what were we up to? What were you doing?
Rebranding, getting our stuff on new video platforms. We got a new partnership with Powered 4 TV out of the UK, a new trading card line, 16 new t-shirt designs. I mean, we took advantage of the downtime to kind of tweak some stuff and change our look a little bit, and our intros, our outros, and just scout new talent for whenever we got to come back.
And I Kim, we were talking a little bit before we went live here, and I mentioned, I think you have the perfect name with Ignite Wrestling. If you come up with a line of coffee, please let us know, because we will not only promote the shit out of that, we will drink plenty of it, and I would definitely look forward to that. And but also, I see, because I like the background that you have going. Tell us about those gorgeous looking wrestling belts that you have behind you.
Back here behind me,
yes.
You can see on each side, that is our women's tag belts. We bought those in 2019 to have a tournament that didn't happen, that was supposed to happen in May 2020, that didn't happen. September 2020 didn't happen. So May 15th, I don't care if I have to beg, borrow, and steal female talent from all over the world. We're doing a tag tournament, and I'm going to have my first women's tag champs.
Nice. Now, I know the last time we talked, you kind of mentioned that you don't do storyline. Now, incorporating all these championships, is that still going to be a thing for Ignite Wrestling? Or are you still really not going to do a storyline and just kind of tell the talent, go out there and give these people a good show, and that's it?
Because we do shows every 4 months, it's kind of difficult to maintain a storyline. And I'm cursed, especially with storylines. 3 times I've tried to do a storyline with Serpentico. This started clear back in 2016. Every time I do a teaser at the end of a show to call out to the next show, that person gets signed by the WWE or AEW, or they go to Ring of Honor, or I've had people pass away. I mean, I don't do storylines because, there's so many changes. We did our show almost 3 weeks ago. Our card changed 13 times from the time I wrote it in November to when we did it in January. I was still putting people in the show 45 minutes before bell time because COVID, because people didn't get their tests in time, car trouble, people running late, you name it. And I'm just like, I don't even care. I don't care at this point. We're doing a show. We're back. It's a party. I wasn't even stressed. That was the least stressed show I've ever had.
Nice.
Because it was happening. I didn't care how it was happening. It was just happening. There was a barbecue truck, and there was beer and French fries. I was in my element.
So everything's opened up nicely then down there.
It opened up. We were fortunate that so far our show didn't have any lingering issues from it. Okay. But we waited. Other shows had been running for months. But if you've seen our videos and you see our photos, we really did space our crowd, despite what people say. And fuck them if they think we didn't. Sorry. I had people going, "You're not going to space." Yeah, actually, I'm going to space. I have a huge freaking venue. Yeah. We even spaced the wrestlers. We spaced the photographers, the videographers. Everybody was spaced away. But it was just one of those things. I couldn't run before January and have a clear conscience about it. It was too questionable. And I had fans there that have followed me for 5 years that are in their 80s. I couldn't risk them. I couldn't risk my best friend's kids. So, it was a hard decision, and I was nervous about doing it because it's never been a money grab for me. Trust me, it's never been about money. But it's about the experience, and I can't do something where I put people at risk. So that was one of our big issues with getting the show back on, was doing it safely and being able to distance. And we did temperature check every person in that building. Okay. Even the employees, they didn't like it from walking through. They're like, "What are you doing? We work here. We don't care. We're taking your temperature."
Now you're continuing this show. It happened at the Walking Tree Brewery. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And that's is that pretty much the staple? Is that the arena for Ignite Wrestling?
That's our home, and I jokingly say, because it's 2 miles from my house and I hate to drive, but it really is. It literally is 2 miles like down that way. But it's a great venue. I have height. I have room. I can fit 500-600 people if I want to. Even when we did a show with 320, we weren't crowded. We still had plenty of room because it's a massive venue. Yeah. And plus, it's got an inside and outside area. And we kind of restructured the building during COVID. Okay. So we have even more room than we had before. So it's great for us. The guys can just run all over the venue and have a grand time.
Awesome.
I like that you've been doing the tests and the temperature checks, and to keep everybody safe. And that's fantastic. I mean, and up here where I am, even just yesterday going shopping at our local Walmart, no lineups. It was crowded in there, and you just walk in the door. There's a security guard there just standing there, and he isn't really doing anything. You have to wear a mask to go in, but it's your people can have their opinions on how severe COVID-19 and how infectious and everything it is. But with that, just you're playing with fire, allowing that many people into one area. I know it's a big store. Meanwhile, these small businesses are struggling to survive. But then we take somebody like you, Kim, taking the proper precautions, but still letting some people in, but being safe about it. That's the right approach.
I'll tell you what, I went to Walmart. I'm thinking it was like July or August, and people were crowding me and took their masks off, and I cried in Walmart. I had to leave. I was like bawling like a baby. I was terrified. Yeah. But I've taken advantage of the streaming platforms. Like I said, I've added us to new platforms. We're trying to get as much content out as we can, but I don't feel the need to run. I never have. I haven't in years run monthly or bi-monthly. I made that decision clear back in 2017. and I'm still sticking with it because I would rather have our shows be an event that you look forward to than being, oh shit, it's the first Monday of the month, let's go see Ignite, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely, and I mean, even just like our viewer and listener there, Dawn had written, like, yeah, I mean, having something there that is just purely for the people. It's not having to worry about a storyline. It's just, let's go out there and put on a good show for the people, is definitely something that is needed a little bit more in the world of professional wrestling right now.
Plus, if you have the right talents, I mean, you can still tell a story inside that ring, you know, whether it's something that's consistent show to show. I mean, that's really entirely up to everybody that's involved. But, I mean, good wrestlers and good talents can still tell a story in the ring just with the physicality, just with the match itself, you know, as opposed to an overarching storyline, which, you know, may or may not get over well with people. You can just put on a show in the ring. And as somebody who's a big fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling with more of a sports-like presentation with not a whole lot of storyline, I can really appreciate the product that you put out.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been into storyline, and I think it's funny because people will ask me, you know, can I be on the committee to do this? And I'm like, what committee? It's like I'm sitting in my bedroom office going, let's see. I'd like to see Kylan King wrestle Leon Scott. You know, originally it was originally going to be our champion Troy Hollywood, and I will tell that backstory. Troy unfortunately got COVID, so Troy had to back out. We didn't know when he's gonna show back up. You know, with COVID and moving and his girlfriend supposedly getting signed. I don't know if that's true, but they did move to Orlando this week. So, you know, we vacated the belt and changed the story. So it didn't do me any good to do that story. I had this great build up to it, a cool ass video. And then it was like 2 days before it, hey, Miss Kim got COVID. And I'm like, oh, shit. So you got to be flexible. And, you know, when you have people like Leon Scott that's been in the sport for 18 years, and you have people like Kylan who's wrestling on AEW Dark every week, they don't need a storyline to go out there and entertain. Yep. I mean, these guys have been around. A lot of these guys have been around. We only had one match that didn't change out of the 6. One match that didn't change.
Yeah. Because, I mean, with all the wrestling that's kind of going on down there, I mean, you have yourself, you have AEW, you have, you know, obviously, you won't have access necessarily to them with the WWE talent, but I mean, there's a lot of talent down in the kind of Florida area, so you must have a pretty good pick at some really top-notch people there.
AEW is a little, I'm not going to say difficult to work with because they have multiple levels of contracts. Yep. So there are people I can work with. There are people that I can't work with. And with COVID and some of the shows not distancing, it's making it more difficult to get AEW talent. But, I mean, we're going to figure something out in the long run. I mean, there's enough people and everything. And the fact that I'm going to be the only company in Florida not running WrestleMania week is going to be interesting. Yeah. Because I don't have nothing to prove. No. And I don't feel comfortable going 3 hours from my house in a venue I've never seen and run a show with a crowd I can't control.
Absolutely. Our friend Don Lewis saying something here. I like the idea of not running every month because your fans can get burnt out in wrestling. Now, is that something that's active in your approach, Kim, with not running it every single month because you don't want your audience to get burned out? Is that actively in your mind?
It's been in my mind because there was a company that used to run monthly, and they're kind of what inspired me to start a company because I thought that I could do so much better. Because how many times can I see, you know, Bobby and Joey wrestle, and I over a year's time, and you're there 12 times and they wrestle 5? Like, seriously, I'm so tired of this feud. And it was the same finish, same 3 finishes because they only knew 3 finishes. If I had to see the weapon that got tossed back and forth and the referee with his back to him one more time, I was going to blow my brains out. Seriously.
It's a main reason. I don't know if I can speak for you, Kim and Karl, on this, but I agree with what Don says. You know, when you see the same talents, you know, this is one of the main reasons why I don't watch a lot of WWE, especially Raw and SmackDown, is we see the same talents mixing up every single week, and just it gets to the point where it's like, you know, it's like, what else can I see from these two? You know, it's when you do this kind of stuff, you have to do it sparingly, in my opinion, for it to be kind of effective. Well, what's your take on getting burnt out on wrestling, Karl, when it comes to the same talents going at each other all the time?
I mean, I've voiced my opinion several times on here about, let's say, Sasha Bailey. right? Or Sasha Flair or Bailey Flair or Becky Flair or and anything like that. I mean, it's always a continuous using the same people all the time, and it just you get tired of it after a while, and then you start to tune out because you're like, okay, yeah, and you're essentially calling everything that's happening as the match goes on, and you're going, okay, so yeah, here's what's going to happen next. There's going to be these 3 moves, and then there's going to be a double down, and the ref's going to have his back turned, and this person's going to, and you already know what's going to happen. And for me, it really takes away from the experience of watching professional wrestling when I know too much.
Yeah. I mean, I hated for a long time, especially in the indies, women's matches were bathroom breaks, because it was the same finish with the same people, same one girl wrestling one of her students that she was training, and you knew it was going to end. So why bother watching? And that's what a lot of it's turned into. And, that's the thing, people yell at me a lot. One of the criticisms I get is because I don't have the same talent at every show. And we've done 20 shows and used 160 different wrestlers. So we have a small core that's there, but we bring in other talent because we don't have fans that are invested in a storyline that know these people. We have fans that are watching AEW that would love to see so-and-so from AEW, or they'd like to see that person, or somebody that's really cool. So, being a year apart, it didn't matter who I brought in. They were just like, hey, girls in tiny pants, and guys are coming back in tiny pants.
See, I love that approach because I love seeing different talent all the time, kind of mixing it up. And I much prefer that as opposed to seeing the same people go at it again and again.
Well, I think Ken Dixon from MCW.
I believe so.
Ken Dixon and Joe Keys. Ken Dixon had a fantastic rant for a long time about guys everybody seeing the same guys at every show within a 30, 40 mile radius. So why would somebody come and see my show if on Friday night, if they could go Saturday and see him for $10 down the road, and he's going to be Sunday over here at the fairgrounds. So, you have to mix it up. You have to bring different people in. And, we had Dream Girl Ellie, we had Casey Lennox, we had Justin Blacks, we had Kylan, who've all been on AEW during COVID.
Yep.
And we had people that have been on Ring of Honor. I mean, there are people that are making their names out there that you're not going to see anywhere within a couple hours radius of us. So why not come down and see them? Because that's always been my big bitch. Especially with Lacey Lane. Lacey Lane wrestled for me. And was she Caden Carter now in the WWE? Mm-hmm. We had people that wouldn't come watch an indie show, but would drive 35 minutes down the road to NXT when she signed to get her autograph. And I'm just like standing in line. You could have seen her like for 2 years at our show. Dumbasses.
See, and I love being able to just kind of jump in because I'm somebody who watches. I watch a lot of wrestling, but I don't watch a lot of the same wrestling all the time. I try and be fairly diverse. So again, I really kind of like I'm someone who can really appreciate a good storyline done properly and done, what makes sense, which not too many places can do. But I like being able to just kind of jump in and feel like I haven't missed out on a bunch of stuff. Right, so that's another reason why I like your approach, and I wish other places would not necessarily didn't have to be like any kind of storyline going on, but just going a little too much with it can backfire. Like you said, talent can get hurt, things can happen, travel restrictions, people can't make something, and then you have to go on the fly, and then it could compromise the story. Right, so that's where that can be an issue.
Well, I mean, if you have people that can tell a story in the ring, you don't have to have a giant build up to it.
Yep.
We had 2 young guys, Captain Aaron Nova, hysterical kid that does a lot of promos, and Jarrett Diaz. They were the only match that didn't change, and they did a hysterical back and forth on promos, and it was a cool match. But I didn't have to build this big controversy about how they were going to come do it. Let the guys do it. That's what they're trained to do. That's what they go to school for. That's And Jarrett Diaz interned at the WWE backstage in production. He knows how to tell a story in the ring and on the mic.
What's the feedback that you get from all the talent coming through? Do they go up to you and say, hey, it's so nice to be able to just come in and just kind of do my thing? Like, do you get a lot of feedback of people appreciating that approach to be able to just come in and just kind of do their thing?
I wish they would give me promos, bunch of jackasses. But at least I didn't put the meme up with the skeleton waiting for the promo that I usually put. No, actually, I did get promos this show, and it was like blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, what are these videos? They like it because, we run a noon show. They can come in. They have to get out of bed, and they're up anyway. So they come in, they do their show. If they don't have another show, they got their evenings, and it's a Saturday off for them, and they love it, because otherwise they would be 2-3 o'clock in the morning driving home from a show. So, I mean, they're back home before dark, kicked back watching Netflix.
Nice. So you say that you did get promos this time,
yeah,
which is fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I have to say this time.
I know that you were kind of kicking yourself for this, that you didn't get any photos with the talent.
That's an ongoing theme with me because I'm usually so distracted I don't think about it, and then when I want to do it, I'm all sweaty and gross by that point, and there was just a lot going on, and the original idea was, I'm going to get in with the professional photographer and take pictures with them. I walked by one photo, is the only photo you see. I was like, hey, can I jump in? Hey, and kept on going. So no selfies. Well, I didn't want to get too close to anybody. I wasn't hugging anybody. I wasn't really touching anybody. And just the thought of getting that close without our masks on, I love them to death, but you don't breathe on me.
So maybe for next time what needs to happen is that you hire 2 photographers, and then as the talent walks in, you got to tell them, okay, you need to go see Miss Kim right away. Yeah. And then you're already there, and then you get your photos done.
Scanning them with a thermometer. I was like, next
so
show.
Now, are we going to get to see these promos?
What promos?
Well, you said that the talent, some talent actually did record.
They're on the website.
They're on the website already. Okay.
Yeah, they were up pre-show. So once we set the card for May, I plan to have a lot more promos coming into May because we're going to have at least, I'm doing the count in my head, 10 women in this show.
Nice.
Okay.
8 to 10 women in this show. So yeah, I'm definitely going to get the women to trash talk.
Nice. Well,
and for all of the listeners, what is that website?
IgniteWrestling.com.
Perfect.
We'll make sure we'll link it in the description.
The promos are actually on our Facebook and Twitter. So if you look on our Facebook, which is Ignite, all of our social media is at Ignite Wrestling. So if you look on our Facebook, you'll see all the promos.
I'll make sure to link all that in this and then in the audio version that we put out tomorrow as well, so people can go check all this content out. Now, given that you were running shows for a little while, Kim, I mean, are you somebody that still kind of actively watches other wrestling, or are you still still fans, or anything that's kind of tickling your fancy, or no, not at all? Are you doing other stuff?
I'm like, do I watch? I don't. I did not watch. The funny part was I did not watch the Royal Rumble, and I'll admit this, but I was in a watch group for it because for some reason the WWE Network wouldn't let me in. So I was watching the replay on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, and it's talking to these guys, and they're like, "You must be a couple seconds behind me," and I was like, "Yeah, I can't get my WWE to work." It would not accept it, and I tried to create a new account, and I still couldn't get it to, and it wouldn't. It was buffering, and I was like, "Nah, forget it." But I don't. I watch wrestling. I watch a lot of it on YouTube. More than anything, I watch. I never miss AEW Dark.
Nice.
Because my boy's on there, Serpentico.
Nice.
Well, I got Serpentico and Kylan and Dream Girl and Red Velvet and a whole bunch of people that I know. There's probably about 8 people that I personally know that it's on there. So I do watch that, but I don't watch the WWE product that much.
No.
Unless they say Lindsay Dorado's wrestling, I'll be there if it's Lindsay.
Nice.
If it's Lacey wrestling, I'll be there. Other than that, no. And I don't watch Impact at all. And I know that's going to kill some people that are like huge Impact fans. But I don't, because of the way I don't have cable. I'm a cord cutter. I don't have cable. So that's why I don't watch a lot of the stuff is I watch New Japan some.
Nice.
But the fans are so different.
Yeah.
That's watching Japanese wrestling and the fans just sitting there with their little golf clap.
Yep.
It's just so funny to me because everybody's like, I'm over here losing my shit, and they're just sitting there like, yeah.
Well, you're not in the minority, Kim. There are a lot of people, people that I speak to that are cord cutters, or they don't watch a lot of cable television. They consume a lot of their, not only their wrestling content, just their content and their entertainment in general through YouTube or through Facebook or other forms of social media, whether it be Netflix or any streaming services. The cord cutting is not the minority anymore. It's just starting to become the majority. And given now with the WWE Network with this Peacock deal, a lot of people aren't necessarily going to have access to that either through the internet, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of evolves going forward.
I mean, there's just so much content out there that I don't really need to have it because I've got like OVW. I have OVW on Roku. I have OVW on Roku. I have like all the New Japan on Roku. Well, I have a Roku. I have Fire Stick in this room and Roku in another room. So I have apps like you wouldn't believe. Anytime I find something, I've got apps, so I can sit and watch all kinds of wrestling. And like we've been on Roku for 4.5 years.
Yeah. Nice.
Some of our stuff is all over the place. If I had to sit down and figure out where all I put it, it takes me a while to remember.
Yeah.
But I just have a list when it's time to upload.
Yeah.
Because, hey, look, there's somewhere I can put content. I'll put it there.
It's cool because I have an Apple TV here, and they kind of group everything all together, all in that one app, so I can go and watch Ring of Honor, New Japan, or OVW, and that kind of stuff. It's all kind of grouped together. It makes it really nice and easy to kind of get in and out. And I mean, we'll see going forward here in Canada how this Peacock deal is going to affect the network here in Canada. I'm sure it will eventually, but we'll see how that kind of goes going forward.
Yeah, as of right now, it's not supposed to affect anything
when
it comes to Canada, the UK, or anything like that.
It might.
But, I mean, only time will tell, so, I mean, we'll definitely have to see. Now, Miss Kim, you talk about Serpentico. I know how much you love Serpentico. And I'm wondering, what do you think about this pairing with Serpentico and Luther?
When they first did it, it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. And I couldn't quite make sense of it. And, but he is such a Japan legend. Yeah. I mean, he's been all over the world. And a lot of people had no idea who he was.
Right.
And the more I watch him, the cooler I think he is. And, just the way that they've connected and using Serpentico as a weapon, which is, I'm pretty sure that was Serpentico's idea. He just loves to get thrown around. But, you always get that oddball team, and I am so happy to see them getting over so much more than Luchasaurus and Marcos. I hate Marcos still.
Lots of people.
Yeah.
It's like, good God, gain 20 pounds and become a 12-year-old.
Start eating some cheeseburgers, boy.
Yeah, I want to get that kid down and force feed him a pork chop.
Awesome.
It's like, it's. I understand, and I've explained this to people. There are times that I can suspend belief. X-Pac is a perfect example, but Marcos, no, dude, you're like an 8-year-old. Get out of the ring. You're going to get hurt.
Right.
There you go. There are a lot of people that share that sentiment. Trust me.
It's not even big enough to use as a weapon. Every time I throw him, I just want to. I think I'm going to hear this little plink sound when he hits.
So, for Ignite Wrestling, Kim, what are the plans going forward now that you've run a show coming back? What are the kind of the bigger picture plans going forward?
World domination, same shit. We have a magazine. We have our latest issue of our magazine coming out March 30th, March 1st. I don't know, March 30th. March 30th. That was a good one. I'm the one that sets the deadline. March 30th. We have a new issue. Leon the Terrible will be on the cover. We've got a show May 15th. We're working on a September-October date. And we're just looking to possibly do a new trading card edition coming out, 2021 possibly, after the May show, of course. But same as always, keep digging. I'm just going to keep digging. I'm going to keep putting the content out there. I'm going to keep sharing it on all the platforms and growing. We just went past 6,000 Twitter followers this past week. We're coming up on 8,000 on Facebook. So we're growing. Pandemic or not, we're not going to slow down.
That's fantastic. Now, the magazine, it's very interesting considering like the WWE years ago decided just to, stop doing the magazines and stuff like that. And PWI is even like every 2 months it's coming out and what have you. And then now for you've decided to go digital with the magazine. And I think that's a brilliant idea to go digital with it so that it's available there and pretty much available at any time for when somebody wants that. And it's on their computer or their phone or their tablet, no matter where it is, they have it with them all the time. I think that's ingenious.
Yeah, we looked at print, and we actually had a magazine for a year before we went to Zinio. And I have to say, every time that we come out on Zinio and I type wrestling into the app and I see us beside PWI, I pop really hard. It's not a huge moneymaker, and I don't know that it ever will be, but it's more cost effective to do it digital. And, the thing is, I want to get the guys out there. I want the backlinks. I'm so old school, I say backlinks. I want the backlinks and the SEO from it. But, it gets our photographers out there. It shows people a little bit about us. We can tell some backstory that we don't necessarily get to tell. And a little behind the scenes stuff. And, of course, push our merchandise because I'm all about the merchandise.
Yes, absolutely. I know, I'm assuming I can speak for Karl here as well, that, once more restrictions kind of get lifted, I know before COVID-19 kind of started, eventually I want to make my way down to Florida to see some Ignite Wrestling in person. It might be a little while, Kim, but as soon as it's humanly possible and I can scrape together my dimes and nickels together, I will be coming down to watch some Ignite Wrestling because it's been a while since I've been down to Florida, A, and B, I got to go see this wrestling in person.
You just want to come to Disney, and it's only 90 minutes from Disney. So
see, I'm not a big Disney fan. I'm a big wrestling fan. See, I'm not a big Disney fan, but I'm a big wrestling fan, and there's a lot of wrestling in that area. And eventually, soon, very soon.
It's not all about the Disney. It's about Disney Springs and the Earl of Sandwich. That's what it's all about.
I have never been to Disney. I have never been to Disney Springs. In 19 years, I've never been there.
Even just passing by, just hit the Earl of Sandwich. That's all you need. One of the best sandwiches I have ever had in my entire life.
Earl of Sandwich. Tell us more about this sandwich, Karl, before we...
Yeah, what kind of sandwich? Let's talk about the sandwich here.
Sandwiches are... There's multiple varieties of sandwiches made all right there in front of you. Fresh ingredients, good price. You can have your choice of side with it, whether it's potato chips, whether it's soup. You get a drink with it. It's a whole assembly line that goes around. It's fantastic. I can't say anything but that. It's just fantastic.
It sounds good.
I've eaten at the Earl of Sandwich probably 3 or 4 times from the times that I've been down in that area. And it's a constant. We'll go back to the Earl of Sandwich instead of going to like the Hard Rock or going to anywhere else, right? Like Rainforest, we won't even go to the Rainforest. We'll hit the Earl of Sandwich.
There you go, Earl of Sandwich. If you're listening, get a hold of us, and we'll. If you want to pay us to plug you, we will definitely do so.
I've never been there. I've been to Permani Brothers, and I think they have one in Tampa, and that's my go-to when I go to Pittsburgh. When I go back up home and I fly into Pittsburgh on my way from the airport, I have to go to Permani Brothers.
Nice. Very cool.
Is there anything specific there that keeps drawing you back?
The sandwich is like this thick. I mean, it's a monster sandwich. I can't eat a whole sandwich. Okay. And they have like so many celebrities, and it's right near the Steelers and the Pirates stadiums, right in the Strip District. And the sandwiches are as big as your head, and just absolutely 24 hours a day you can get a sandwich there. So
nice,
fantastic.
Very cool. All right, you got any other?
Universal and brings the world together.
Absolutely. All right, Karl, you have any other questions for Kim before we send her on her way and we bring in Mr. Ryan K. Bowman here shortly?
I don't get
to say hi to Ryan.
I mean, you can stick around if you want to.
I gotta say hi to Ryan.
Yeah, if you want to stick around for our Showstopper segment, we're totally fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will hang and be quiet.
Okay.
All right, Karl. Well, you know what? Why don't we take a brief break then, and let us hear from our friends over at Collar and ElbowBrand.com. We're going to come back and talk some breaking news in our Match of the Week segment as well.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
The dictionary defines hero as a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Being a hero in life is far more than words printed on a page. It takes an unwavering code, a compass that points true north always. And in times like these, it takes sacrifice. Hero shouldn't be a word defined by a dictionary. It's a word that should be defined by the best of us. Hero has a new definition.
All right, guys, Mighty Joe and Karl Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk with our friend Miss Kim down in Florida with Ignite Wrestling. And as you saw there with our friend Al Snow at OVW and CollarandElbowBrand.com, if you use promo code JK Podcast, you can get 10% off anything you purchase there. As you can see, Karl has that thing on top of his head every single week. I'm actually wearing my Collar and Elbow mirror tee. I know you can't really see it, but it is there. So make sure and check it out. They have a ton of great They have a ton of great merchandise there that you can purchase, and helps us out a little bit too with that promo code.
Definitely does. And just remember that with it as well, it doesn't matter if it is brand new merchandise or if it is the clearance merchandise, you get your discount when you use the promo code JK Podcast.
Absolutely. All right, let us get to our breaking news segment. All right, Karl. Well, there's a ton of breaking news that is on kind of my radar, but one that I definitely wanted to bring up here, because this is tied a little bit to our other platform here, Karl, with Love Wrestling. Spencer just recently talked to Miss Shaul Guerrero not too long ago. I think it was maybe a week or two ago. She actually, as of today, or I believe yesterday, or just over the last couple of days, announced that she is going to be stepping away from professional wrestling for the foreseeable future due to some to some mental health issues going on. So yeah, kind of a big deal. I mean, she was kind of set to kind of break through, and she's going to step away. I mean, your health is more important than anything else.
It definitely is. I mean, the mental health today is really being tested, especially over the last year, over 2020, with the lockdowns and with all of the restrictions that have been put into place. Lots of people are really definitely feeling the effects of mental health, and I mean, we just want everybody to know that we're an open platform. If somebody needs to reach out and somebody needs to talk, message us. I mean, we don't know you, and it doesn't matter. We still care, and we want to make sure that we're open and available for people as well. Yep. And we definitely are. So anytime that you're feeling something, Joe and myself, we both work overnight shifts, and that seems to be the time when lots of people start to have their mental health problems really creep in. So, I mean, the availability is there. Just message us. And if you don't feel comfortable messaging us, message a friend. I'm sure everybody has that one friend that they can contact no matter what, and lean on those people. You definitely have to lean on those people. And in time, you're going to be able to be that person that's being leaned on. Yeah. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take some figuring out, but it's going to happen. I can guarantee you that. And I say that from personal experience. So don't feel that you ever have to be alone, because you don't have to be. There are people out there that you can reach out to.
Since we're on this topic, Karl, we have Kim here, and we can get a unique perspective on this with Kim being a promoter, running a company, because I'm sure that she likely encounters this on a regular basis, dealing with talents directly. I'm sure it comes up here, Kim. This is something that I'm sure you have to deal with occasionally, wrestlers going through some issues, correct?
Yeah, I've had some that I've been on the phone with at 2 and 3 and 6 in the morning because of something that's been said on social media or something that's happened in their life, or, you know, dealing with, a lot of them are dealing with trying to balance wrestling and their families. And now that, you know, especially with COVID and losing that income, it's a lot of added stress. And poor Shaw Guerrero, I feel for her. Not only, you know, you got to look at the background she's come out of and the family history, and having to earn her own name with the WWE. That's so much stress. And, you know, I totally applaud her stepping back and taking care of herself, because at the end of the day, wrestling will always be there in some form, but you got to get help when you need help.
Well said.
And I've done it myself.
Well said. Well said. All right, Karl, is there any breaking news that you want to get to that has shown up on your radar recently?
Yeah, I do, actually. And
this
is a pretty big one that is a little controversial for some people.
Okay.
But I want to say, and I want to give my congratulations and my support to someone that others may know from the WWE as Tyler Rex. So for those who don't know, it's all out there already, and we're okay to talk about it. Gabe Tuft, known as Tyler Rex in the WWE, has gone through his life feeling just a little bit different. And if you're interested and wondering what exactly was going through his head, or her head, let's say, her head now, she has it all out there on all of her social media platforms, out there for everybody. Gabe Tuft is now Gabby. So that's fantastic. And I say that because I have a child that is transitioning as well. And I think it's really beautiful to be able to see somebody who has been seen as this like big, strong, tough Viking type of person be able to take that and go, no, it's about time. I can't live like this anymore. I have to be who I actually am. And I think it's fantastic. And I'm absolutely in love with the entire thing. And I'm just so thankful that that Gabby actually wanted to share this entire experience with everyone. There was a whole countdown that she was doing, and there was, unfortunately, and I know that she wasn't super upset about it, but unfortunately it got leaked a day early. But there was this entire countdown with amazing looking photos and really amazing write-ups that she did on this entire whole situation. And I think it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And opinions aside, I mean, do what makes you happy. To me, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Whether you agree or disagree is really not a factor. It's entirely up to that person and to do what they see fit with their life. So that's all I will say about that. All right, Karl and Kim, let us get to, because we have Mr. Ryan K. Boman waiting on deck here, let us get to our Match of the Week segment. Don Lewis saying it's all about supporting that person. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a great point there. Let's get to our match of the week here, Karl. And traditionally, I would kind of let you go first, but you know what? I'll go first this week to kind of mix it up a little bit. My match of the week is not coming from current wrestling right now. It's going back a little bit, but and kind of do some research for future potential things in our other show, Turnbuckle Rewind. I wanted to check out some matches that really kind of tickle my fancy, and this is definitely one of them here, Karl. We're going back to 2018 with, of course, the landmark independent show All In, and I'm talking about Okada versus Marty Scurll at that event. That was a very special match, a match very dear to my heart, given how big of a New Japan wrestling fan I am. And I mean, these two guys, burned down the house in that match here. So you watch that. That is going to be a match that we talk about on our feature episode of Turnbuckle Rewind. Just a matter of when we'll see.
That's right. My match of the week as well is not coming from anything that actually happened during this week because I have been very busy and haven't actually been able to watch a lot of professional wrestling, but what I did get to watch, and it's going to be super simple, and yes, this is another one that at some point we are definitely going to be talking about on our other platform of Turnbuckle Rewind. All I'm going to say is I'm sorry, I love you.
Okay, well, I can see where that is definitely going. Kim, I know you're not watching a ton of wrestling recently, but I mean, what's maybe a match of the week, maybe even from a show that you've done recently?
Honestly, one of my favorite matches I saw was actually it was Troy Hollywood and Serpentico at Mayhem on Mills in Orlando. It was a live show I went to. I believe it's online on YouTube. That one, and I would have to say Teddy Stigma and Serpentico, where they actually did like a time travel segment where they wrestled off screen, ended up in 3 other locations and back into the ring. But it was a topic. It was something I hadn't seen before.
Very cool.
That is interesting.
Right. Well, before we take our break here, you know what? Let us bring in Mr. Ryan K. Boman. He's been patiently waiting. We appreciate that, Ryan. You know what? What's your match of the week here for this week, Ryan? I'm sure that you watch a fair amount of professional wrestling these days, right?
It is really odd that you brought up All In, Joe, because I actually just watched that this morning and watched the Okada and Marty Scurll match.
Great minds think alike, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I would say I'll go with that one. I'll go ahead and put that up. I know I actually watched All In pay-per-view this morning for some reason. I don't know why. I just got up early and I was like, I still have it saved. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to fire this up. So it's kind of strange that we were both on the same wavelength today.
Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, guys, let us take a brief break here. Let's hear from our friends over at OVW, and we're going to come back and talk about our Showstopper segment.
Hi, my name is Barry Ratcliffe. You might recognize me from such films as The Longest Ride or Ted 2. Now, as a successful actor, I have 2 planes, a supermodel wife, countless exotic cars, and a ton of cash. You might think it couldn't get any better than this, but you'd be wrong. For only $4.99, you can get OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. That's OVWWrestlingNetwork.com for only $4.99. Now, will your life be as good as this? No. Will it be better? Yes, and I guarantee that. That's not valid anywhere. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99. Tomorrow's yesterday is today. Prices so low, they're insane. Want more bang for your buck? Well, so do I at OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. It's only $4.99 a month. In between excitement, me too. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99 a month. You get that incredible value. She cost me $17 million and I loved it. Want a real value? OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. It's only $4.99. That's a price so low. Well, it's insane.
So there we go. We're here, friends over at OVW. I love that commercial, and I love and I'll continue to play that when I was getting a kick out of that. I mean, for $5 a month to see some top-notch wrestling, I mean, you can't go wrong.
No, not at all.
All right, folks.
Saturday Night Special this week was really good. It's still on YouTube. This week's Saturday Night Special show for OVW. So if you guys get to check it out on YouTube, our friend Michael Melkor helped produce that. So got to give them a plug.
I got to go check that out very, very soon. Okay, folks, let us get to our Showstopper segment. All right, so for our Showstopper segment this week, I kind of found myself looking on, I was looking through Facebook when I was doing up the run for this episode, and I saw a very interesting article posted by our friend Mr. Ryan K. Boman here on Sportskeeda, talking about Mr. Paul Heyman as the greatest manager of all time, and had the light bulb moment, and that turned into our Showstopper segment this week here. So first of all, I will give Ryan the floor and to pitch his case for Mr. Paul Heyman.
Well, I'm not necessarily making the case for Paul as being the greatest manager of all time. I'm saying that he has to be in the conversation now. Okay. For years, it's always been Jim Cornette, Bobby Heenan. Those 1 and 1A almost have been the 2 names. But at the same time, look at Paul Heyman's body of work as a manager. Go back to the 80s from his time in Memphis and the AWA. Look at his time with the Dangerous Alliance, which is a tragically underrated faction in the history of professional wrestling. And what he's done in WWE, he's managed more world champions than either Bobby Heenan or Jim Cornette did. You know, at the end of the day, I think Paul Heyman at least has to be in that consideration, that conversation of number 1A, whatever you want to put him in. He's got to be up there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in opinions aside, just briefly too, make sure and go over to Sportskeeda, and actually, I'll try to remember to put it in the description so people can go read the articles because it was absolutely fantastic, well done. You know, check that out. But let's throw this over to our other guest here, Kim. What do you think? Because I saw visually your reaction there.
No, I hate Paul.
What do you think?
No, I mean he's no Paul Bearer, and he's certainly no. He's no Jim Cornette, that's for sure. No, I think Paul Bearer is just, or Paul Heyman is just one of those people that's been in the right place at the right time. I don't think that he's that any better of a manager. If I had to pick, I would say Teddy Long. I mean, look at the tag teams Teddy Long has taken, and Teddy Long's body of work. Paul Heyman, no. Sorry, Ryan. I got to disagree.
I mean, I look at like the Bobby Heenan thing. Heenan managed a lot of guys, but not all of them were successful. I mean, a lot of times it was just a whole group of guys. Basically, Bobby got stuck with a lot of the guys in WWF who couldn't talk, and so they gave them Bobby Heenan. Whereas, Paul Heyman to me was a guy that elevated his guys. He automatically, and I think that you see this now with WWE. I mean, when you have guys like Roman Reigns that are major stars, but they get an even bigger rub by being with Paul Heyman. I mean, come on, he's got to be at least up there in your top 3, top 5 somewhere.
So for myself, before I pass it off to my co-host Karl here, for me, when it comes to this role, I mean, maybe, I don't know if I necessarily have a different perspective, but when I look at managers of wrestlers, for me, it's all about the character. It's all about the character. And for me, my top 2, I mean, I don't know if I can necessarily give my whole top 5 or top 10 because we'd be here for a while, but for me, my top 2 are Bobby the Brain Heenan, followed closely by Paul Bearer. For me, just like I said, for me, it's all about character in that role. And those two, I think, are the absolute best. Whether everybody that they manage is successful or not, to me, that's not necessarily the most important thing, because I think that character is what really helps drive that aspect of things. And I mean, Bobby, just for anybody who's not familiar with his work, what's wrong with you, number one? And if you just go on YouTube and watch and listen to some of his moments, not only as a manager, but like on commentary and just at ringside, I mean, just character-wise, fantastic. Some of the best, craziest, stupidest, strangest, most hilarious lines of all time in wrestling. And you get Paul Bearer, who, I mean, was literally like the perfect manager for The Undertaker, especially that early Undertaker character, and really accentuated and made that even better than what it could have been if he was just by himself. To me, that's a successful manager who can make you better just by your presence.
Definitely. And I mean, all of these are really good picks. And I mean, I do have to agree with the Bobby Heenan, right? Definitely 100%. Paul Heyman, I do see it. I agree with that a little bit as well. Paul Bearer, definitely. I agree with that as well. Cornette was even thrown out there, but I think we all forget about the most charismatic and flamboyant Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. I mean, my goodness.
He was a character.
I absolutely loved every time that I saw Jimmy Hart coming out with, I didn't care who it was, as long as Jimmy Hart was coming out there with that megaphone and just at the ring screaming into that megaphone while the people were in the ring. For me, it just added and elevated a little bit more to that matchup, because there was somebody out there who was so invested in that match as well and voicing their opinions.
One other, Karl, a lot of people forget about his time in Memphis. His time in Memphis was actually better than his time in the WWF. Jimmy was great in Memphis.
One honorable mention I want to make to just thinking outside the box while listening to all these other great suggestions and possibilities here. Going to ECW, I think one that we have to kind of mention. I think he really accomplished what he set out to do in this. Bill Alfonso with that whistle. I mean, being that obnoxious manager, I mean, he nailed that to a T, right? He had people like absolutely hating that whenever he would blow that whistle, right? So, and again, mission accomplished. You want to be the annoying manager, blow a whistle in people's faces.
I think my whole problem with Heyman is so many wannabe managers imitate him badly, so he's like a parody, and I think that's a lot of why I dislike him. But Jimmy Hart, oh my God, Jimmy Hart. But right. I'm still throwing Teddy Long in there. Teddy Long. Come on, guys. You got to give Teddy Long props for Doom and all the great tag teams.
Still, hands down, like for conversations and interviews that Karl and I have done, I mean, Teddy still kind of is up near the top for me. Even just the setup to meeting him, I mean, it was just glorious. We weren't really much at the time, and I mean, Teddy put us over like we were like 30-year veterans. I mean, just he's a real class act, and just a pleasure to talk to that man. Just a pleasure to deal with and talk to Mr. Teddy Long.
Teddy Long is definitely one of those great names that needs to be included in there. I think that unfortunately with Teddy Long, what kind of get overshadows his entire time as a manager is when he was on SmackDown, and he was he was like the general manager, and that's how everybody knows him. The tag team match, playa, you're gonna face The Undertaker, right? Like that's more how everyone sees Teddy Long, right? And so, and you're right, like it shouldn't be, but it kind of overshadows that whole managerial.
One more case for Heyman, and I will say this, is I didn't realize till I did the story that Paul's only 55 years old.
Yeah.
For a guy that's been around 30 years, you would think that he's, 60, 70 something years old. He's still got some time to put a little bit more on his resume before it's all over with. I think when it's all said and done, I mean, he'll be right up there with Heenan and Cornette and those guys, when he finally steps away, if he ever steps away from wrestling.
Right.
And to be very fair as well, a lot of people in his position there, given what happened with ECW, would have just burned out and just faded into obscurity. Mm-hmm. Paul was able to kind of revive his career coming out of that, so I got to give him respect and props for that, because not everybody could have pulled that off. So I got to give Paul some respect for that. And our friend Don Lewis making a case for Mr. Fuji here. I mean, yeah, you want to talk characters in managers in professional wrestling. He's a big one. He's a big one.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned the one old school one, the Grand Wizard.
Ooh, yeah. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones out there.
There's so many.
There's so many good ones. Yep, absolutely. And we have even touched on, in Japan and other places. I mean, there's been some really good managers, and for me too, it's such a cool thing done properly. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. At the end of the day,
at one time, I mean, WWE in the '80s, when it was WWF in the '80s, I mean, think about how many really solid men between Hart and Heenan and Mr. Fuji and guys like Freddie Blassie. They had almost a whole stable of managers at that time. That was kind of the golden age for managers in pro wrestling.
Right, and you, of course, you have to mention Miss Elizabeth and Sherry and all those other women managers who really did well in that role, and especially Miss Elizabeth. I mean, she was pretty universally loved, especially during that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for a lot of the fans today, it's a lost art.
It really is.
It's something that really there isn't really very much in there aren't many managers out there nowadays. I'll throw this down to you for right now, Miss Kim. Do you think that there should be more managers? Do you think that it's like a lost art that really needs to take shape again?
I think it's a lost art, and a lot of people think that screaming is managing, and they're taking away from the storyline, or not so much the storyline, but they're taking away from the action in the ring. Yep. They don't understand, and there are some great people that I've noticed that have come out of the Dudley School that are managers. They put the wrestlers over, and that's the problem. A lot of these people, especially in the indies that are managers, are putting themselves over and taking away from the action in the ring.
Yep.
And Heyman, I will give Heyman props. Heyman does put the wrestlers over harder than anyone I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's the key. In a manager, we've talked also about the referee role, Karl, where some referees like to kind of steal a show. We don't want to necessarily name names at the moment, but we can always do that later on. Ramsburg, yeah. Or of where there's a big difference between accentuating and adding to what's going on, as opposed to just taking over and, like Kim said, putting yourself over above everybody else. That's not the goal.
And now, what do you think, Ryan?
Well, and the other thing, too, is look at the situation in AEW. It's kind of hard when you see Arn Anderson outside of the ring or Tully Blanchard outside the ring to not think of them as Tully Blanchard, the wrestler, instead of Tully Blanchard, the manager. It's for us, the folks that grew up in the generation where they dominated, it's kind of hard to see them transition into that outside, that second role. And, I don't know. Right now, I don't see anybody that's really great as far as, in terms of Cornette or Heyman or Heenan or some of the guys that we grew up watching. There's a handful of guys. There's a guy in OVW named Josh Ashcraft, I think is a great manager. There's a few guys out on the indie level that I think could make it. at the top level, but it's just something we just don't see that much of anymore. Period. I mean, it's a trend in wrestling. Yeah. Oh, I would love to see more. Yeah, I'd love to see more. I think a good manager, especially for a tag team that doesn't really communicate that well, to have a mouthpiece is 100%. That can put them over the top, quite frankly.
Yeah, we have to ride that fine, like Kim said, and we want to make sure that we're getting the talent over and accomplishing that without crossing that line of, taking over the show and stealing the show and then, making your talent look like less because you're kind of outdoing them essentially. So we always have to be careful that we don't cross that line.
Well, JT Davidson is a great example in the Indies. He used to be with Dave Christ before Dave imploded. He's a phenomenal manager, and he adds to the action going in the ring. Super passionate, super involved, pulls the crowd in. It's not a distraction to the fans. It's a refocus. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't get is you need to put the focus back on your guy in the ring. Absolutely. You got to be the spice, not the meal.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a good way to kind of wrap up that topic. It's the spice, but it's not the meal. That's worded perfectly. All right, Mr. Ryan K. Boman, let us know what you have going on these days over at Sportskeeda.
Everything. It seems like I'm writing a story 7 days a week these days. But as you mentioned, I did the over the weekend did the Paul Heyman piece, and then today the Power of the Pin. The topic is Tony Khan is a lot smarter than you think he is.
Interesting.
So be sure to check that over at sportskeeda.com today and click on all my stories, please. That always helps me out. And check me out on Facebook at Ryan K. Boman and Twitter at Ryan K. Boman.
Absolutely. And Ms. Kim Artlip, tell us all about Ignite Wrestling and everything that you have going on there. The floor is yours.
Like I said, we're back May 15th, Walking Tree Brewery, our first women's tag team titles. We've got our new magazine coming out March 30th. We're on every platform you can think of, pretty much. Everything's at Ignite Wrestling, and follow me at Kim Artlip because there's a few things that I do outside of Ignite Wrestling.
And by the way, just let me throw in a plug. Ignite Wrestling is awesome. If you haven't checked it out, you need to look it up on YouTube.
Absolutely.
The venues, the way that you guys do things, Kim, is just fantastic.
Like I said, we'll be including a link. We'll try and make sure we do it on the YouTube one if possible, and of course on the audio version. It shows up on Podbean and elsewhere. We'll make sure and add a link to that as well in the description so people can go and check it out. Absolutely. Karl, anything before we go?
Just make sure you've heard our friends there at Collar and Elbow Brand. Make sure you go and check them out. collarandelbowbrand.com. Promo code JK Podcast gets you 10% off. And we're partnered up with Phoenix as well at fnxfit.com. You're looking for supplements, whether it is pill supplement, whether it is protein powder, cricket powder, super greens, what have you. You need something? Go and check out fnxfit.com. Use promo code TBTalkPod, and you're going to get 15% off your entire purchase there. fnxfit.com, fnxfit.com, and the promo code TBTalkPod.
There you go. And for myself, before we go, make sure check out our other show over at Love Wrestling, Turnbuckle Rewind. This last week, we looked at arguably one of the greatest Royal Rumbles of all time, the 1992 Royal Rumble. Make sure and go and check that out. And coming up, actually for this week, this Thursday, Karl, we're going to be talking some ECW. We're going back to 1998 from Heatwave, and we're going to be looking at Taz versus Bam Bam for Rewind this week. That is going to be a fun one.
Oh, yes.
All right. And that's it for this week, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
It's me. It's an honor to be the beat. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.